So let me just say something that's bold but true. All right, a setter is only as good as they offer. You could have the my best mindset, the best follow-up game, the cleanest script, but if you're on a weak offer, you're simply going to be finished before the call even starts, right? And if your environment isn't the right environment in pushing you, in tracking you, and actually having something to hold you to standard, right? Then don't expect high performance. A lot of setters out there must realize that it's not a setter problem. It's that you're on a offer that is the problem and an environment that's also the problem. So if you fix those, then the results will follow. It's as simple as that. And this video, inshallah ta'ala, is going to serve the whole purpose of exactly what we've just been discussing, right? We want to get a full breakdown and understanding and grasp this understanding of how to vet offers, how to spot a bad offer, how to spot a good offer, but also to give you the direction from the start and to set the right expectations for all of you out there who's looking for that first role, or even while you're on a role and simply not benefiting and not really growing and not really performing because there's a proportion that must meet. You bring your experience and you bring your skill set, but at the same time, this offer needs to allow you to flourish right in this role. And that's inshallah ta'ala, we're gonna have a full breakdown of this so you have a full understanding before you go out there in the job market to ensure that you're achieving the growth as fast as you can, inshallah. So, first and foremost, let's head over to by revenue. Now, what you must understand, right, is that not every job ad is going to have revenue on there, okay? But you are going to get offers that, state the revenue exactly what they're turning over every single month. You're going to have offers that give you a lot to work with. You're going to have offers that give you very little. You'll have lazy hiring managers, lazy sales managers, or lazy business owners who are just putting it out there and just saying to themselves, all right, if you want it, come grab it. I'm happy to share the details after that, right? And you have some people who want top quality from the very, very start. So they will actually set themselves up for a good recruitment strategy and selecting and the selection of the right individuals that want to apply for the role. So I wanted to give an example, right, of what really is very realistic and what is very unrealistic. So if we look at what's realistic, right, if we look at the revenue right here, let's say an offer has the revenue, states the revenue, and it says they're turning over 60K a month, right? And their ticket price is 3K. And the commission that you're going to receive for every deal that's closed is 10%. Now, that to me is a realistic offer. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things that can happen in the back end. There's so many details and so many variables that determine how good an offer can be. But from a surface level, this very much looks like a very attractive offer and a very realistic offer for a setter to go in there, level up, grow, achieve consistent results, and actually gain the financial rewards he's looking for. So if you break this down, right, if you think about it, the calls, consider the example, the calls needed to hit that revenue. If they make 60K a month at 3K per sale, that's around 20 sales calls per month. All right, this means the closer is doing 20 closes per month. That's what that means. And assume he has a 25% close rate, because that's actually one of the questions that you should be asking, right, in your interviews, depending on where you are. Now we will go through the kind of balance of someone who's experienced and someone who's not, but let's assume they have a 25% close rate. That means if you look at the formula right here, that they're getting 80 qualified calls per month, right? Now that's a good number. If it's qualified, it's a good number, right? And if they're hitting 60K a month, that's also a very good revenue number as well, inshallah. So you can see from here that this is realistic, right? The closer's closing 20 calls a month, right? And you will, from a lead list or from a paid ads lead list or organic content of people who fill in the form and come into the system, this is not all the calls in a month. I'm talking about qualified calls. It could be they're getting 200 leads and 80 of them were qualified, booked into the calendar throughout the month, right? It could be 300, 400. But I mean, if there's the higher number of leads, the more qualified leads that they'll get. So if they're doing 500, it might be more, right? But I wanted to give a nice snapshot of what it really looks like. So that, my brothers, is something that's very, very, very realistic. Now, let's go towards what's unrealistic. So they're earning 50K. They're turning over 50K revenue per month. The ticket price is about 4 to 6k, and a set commission is about 20%. Now, typically, right? Typically, most setters, they get between 2 to 10%. Typically, that's the most common commission rates out there, right? From the roles that I've been on, first hand experience, I was on a role that paid 2.5% commission, another role that was 10% commission, and the other role is also 10% commission, right? And you will get certain offers. It all depends upon, okay, if there's a recurring business, if there's recurring business, there's recurring monthly revenue. It might change a little bit. It might be different. It's all dependent upon the actual offer itself, the funnel, the type of outreach they're doing. It's very, very dependent. But typically, most common and most popular is that you're gonna get between 5 to 10%, right, on most deals, inshallah. So 15 to 20%, it can be possible. For example, if there's a lot of work required, if they're doing a lot of admin, if they're doing a lot of follow-ups, if they have a very, very high ticket price, right? And it's very, very dependent. But like I said to you, to set the base, to set the foundation, by default, that's what you've been looking at. But let's go through the example here. So the calls needed to hit that revenue. For example, if they make 50k a month at 5k per sale, right? And it's 4 to 6k, all right? It could be that there's a package for 4k, package for 6k, whatever it may be, or they do payment plans. So if they make 50k at 5k per sale, right, that's only 10 sales per month, right? And that to me is unrealistic. Are you the only setter? How many closers are there? This actually helps you to understand and gauge and get full clarification on the lead deal flow and the competition that's there on the offer, right? So that is obviously how you can, by revenue, understand, okay, do you know what, is this really realistic, right? And look, I'm gonna obviously make sure that you're not just completely disposing and overlooking and brushing one under the carpet just because the revenue says this and it doesn't really make sense. It's always good to do a little bit more research, right? To do a bit of due diligence. But you can see, like, from revenue, you can get a really good understanding of whether and this offer can actually allow you to perform high, and actually the earnings are realistic. All right. So the next thing is, I wanted to go through some job posts and actually kind of dissect it, help you obviously see what types of job ads are there, because not every job ad is the same. Like I said to you, some of them are very shallow, some of them are very, very detailed, in depth. Some of them are very lazy because they're very laid back. They're doing very well in the business. They just want a quick fire setter. They just want an influx. They want an influx and a big flurry of setter requests, especially the ones you see on Instagram. They're not going to post a very in-depth type of job ad, because they might be very well known. They do a lot of content. They have a very large following, especially if it's a business agency owner that's operating on social media and gets a lot of his revenue from social media. So one needs to understand that the way the offers are presented is going to vary. It will always vary. Okay, so let's just go through a couple ones that I've actually drawn out and actually wanted to add here. So you can see here, inshallah, this one over here. Okay, we are looking for a killer appointment setter. So this says here, Airbnb offer help UK working professionals replace their income by launching an Airbnb management business. There's a lot of Airbnb coaching offers, and you can see his price point says 4,000 with a 3 deals in 90 days or refund guarantee. The role is to handle inbound leads from ads, funnels, and DMs. Hit speed to lead under 10 minutes on new bookings. Now, one quick thing to understand about Instagram offers is Instagram appointment setting types of offers is most of them are quite realistic, and they know what they're doing, because if they start to put some really unrealistic stats or things that don't really add up or things that are not very orthodox, it only takes to click on his profile, view his agency, check out his following, check out his his content to really gauge and give you a solid idea of whether, okay, is this guy really real or is he fake? So it's easy to vet those offers that are on Instagram. And I'll be honest, Instagram is one of the best ways to actually land roles. I'm not going to lie to you, it's very, very, there's a lot of volume, but look, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's in front of you. If a role is meant for you, you are going to get that role, right? That's the way I see it, because Allah provides, right? And Allah is the planner, and Allah holds that provision, and Allah opens the doors. It doesn't matter who's in front of you. If Allah wants you to get this role, and He knows it's good for you, He knows it's good for your development, and He knows it's good for your profession, then He's gonna allow you to take that role, right? That's what you need to understand here. So that's one. And you can see here, it's not very in depth, because you got to understand that these types of business owners, sorry, who are maybe turning over 100K, 200K, they want quality. So they will put what they need. They'll make it very, very, let's say, efficient. Right, exactly what you need to know, because one thing that it says very well here, which is the role. You're handling inbound leads, funnels, DMs, and you're doing speed to lead. Speed to lead usually means they got a good lead flow, and they got a good number of qualified, in theory, qualified leads that are maybe booking, or maybe filling in a paid ad, or maybe filling in a form, whatever it may be, right? Or filling in something for an event. So you can see that's a pretty good offer. Okay, next one. Hiring a DM closer for creative business coaching, UK based. We're looking for a high performing DM closer to handle qualified leads. Look, I'm not going to read everything. I'll let you read that. Role is DM closer, creative design agency. The agency Inner Circle, they sell their offer for £499 or a four pay split pay, right? Which is very, very odd. I mean, that wouldn't even be considered. That'd be like a low ticket offer. That's what I would call it. It wouldn't even be a mid ticket. It would probably, maybe even a mid ticket. If he can probably get away with it, but it's not even a high ticket offer, right? And you can see that he's saying that the leads are from incoming reels, stories, replies, proof loop signups. Okay, that's not very orthodox, right? He is saying is warm, but normally warm is webinar leads, paid ad leads, organic content, VSLs, right? That's what comes to mind when it's inbound and when it's warm, right? UK-based applicants only available full time, 3,000 to 6,000 OTE, right? He hasn't even mentioned the commission. He's just said this is what you should expect. OTE, it's very broad, right? OTE can work for some people and cannot, but OTE versus putting the commission stands out more, right? The commission is what speaks a lot more volume. Now, the experience, it talks about experience, must have DM static closing experience with digital education offer. Now, on this offer, it doesn't very much look like it's realistic, right? You won't be, remember what I said, going back to the start of the video, you're only as good as the offer, right? If you're talking about some warm leads coming from reels, stories, and replies, it's got nothing to do with or social media, organic content, or opt-ins. Opt-ins are usually interested leads, people who comment or people who opt into something, right? Because they're interested, they want to know more about it. So this one, for me, doesn't really strike me as a good offer. And you can see it's, like I said to you, you're going to get a mixture of different offers. Some of them are very shallow. Some of them miss things out on purpose. Some of them don't want to give you the true reality, okay? And this is one of them that I feel like doesn't want to. So the next one is Airbnb coaching again. And you saw the other one, right? And of course, it's left obviously some data here. So look, we're looking for a full DM setup, US or UK, US or Canada based, whatever it may be. You can see that it's DM setup, it's Airbnb coaching, and OTE again. Doesn't state nothing about the commission. Doesn't state nothing about the funnel. Doesn't really state. Okay, you'll be speaking with warm qualified leads, booking them into a triage call. Okay, where are they? Where's that really coming from? Warm leads, right? Warm leads, but from where? He's talked about you're going to be having a setting call, and he's talked about closing calls as well, which is surprising, subhanallah. So as you can see here, this one again, doesn't really give me that vibe. That vibe of okay, I feel comfortable and confident in applying for this, and I will get to obviously when we get to the conclusion here to help you understand that. Look, it's not going to really work for you if you're just going to overlook every single offer. But this one obviously doesn't really state the commission, and nor does it actually state the ticket price. Nor does it talk about okay, where would the leads really be coming from? If you're saying warm leads, normally if someone says inbound warm leads, they state exactly where it's coming from, right? So he's been a little bit vague here. Might be intentional, might be unintentional. Some offer owners are very, very lazy. I promise you that they're very, very lazy. But the ones that I think and I believe are lazy are the ones who don't really care and are actually a little bit careless if you overlook the offer or not, because regardless, they're going to get people applying. I'm talking mainly about Instagram offers that are very, very, like I said, efficient in what they present on their job ad, right? And you also must realize that, fair enough, on Instagram, they might present it that way, but they might have a friend, they might have a hiring manager, they might have a sales manager, they might have people in their network where they'll be able to give a lot more details and will go ask them to go and post it out in their network or in their circle or in these communities where they can attract more setters. Most people are not going to just post it out in one area, right, on one platform, unless they know that they have a very large following and they have people that watch their content, and they would rather have someone that comes from Instagram because they know them very well, they know the offer very well, right? I once saw a setter ad, and the brother was talking about how I only want people that have been watching my content for the last 3 months, because obviously you understand the offer, right? You understand the offer, and the better you understand the offer, the better your performance on the actual role itself, right? That's another thing that a lot of setters tend to overlook. They want to get in there, they want to jump onto the phones, just get into the blower, and just stay along, stay as be very consistent on that, of course. But there's a lot of things that come with being a setter, right? You're not just a setter that's going to be calling people or DM setting. You have to have very good organization skills. Your admin work needs to be very, very good, depending on the offer and depending on the sales strategy, right? The other thing is, just in case, like, it depends offer to offer to offer, right? You might be required to know a little bit more about the program, right? Because you might have an audience that's very, very doubtful, or an audience that's quite cold when it comes to knowing more about them. So just in case that happens, you have to be ready for you have to, obviously, you know what you do. You must know how to, work around the question and make sure you regain the control and not lose the control of the conversation, right? But at the same time, it's also good to know about the offer as well. But let's look at this one, inshallah. So you can see here, 150 warm leads provided every single week, 2 week training and development, virtual hybrid, simple script that's been using over 15 years. Okay, it says here, an average commission of $400 per sale. Bonuses for reaching KPIs. Our largest sales are 750 to 1,200 closes. So if they're saying that the sale is 750 to 1,200 dollars, which is a pretty low. This is a mid ticket. If we go to the higher end, would consider that as a mid ticket, right? If it's 750, that's quite low ticket. That's a low ticket offer, and they're saying that the earnings are 50% commission first 90 days and 60% 90 days. Average reps in the first 6 months have 6 to 10k OTE. Now that doesn't really add up for me, right? Because if you're getting 50% commission, to be honest, the OTE would probably be much higher than that, right? So that proportion doesn't really make sense for me. Plus, I don't know who gives out 50% commission, 60% commission, or even $400 out of 750 to 1,200. I mean, that business owner must be thriving. He must have like 15 businesses, and he's just thinking, okay, yeah, this one's just in the market, see how it goes. I'll be more than happy to motivate some of these workers and some of my team to give them some, unorthodox commission rates and, very far-fetched commission rates to make sure that, the culture's there and the fit's there. Now that's probably your 5% or 1% chance of that. But this, for me, doesn't really stand out. Makes sense for me. Okay. So as you've seen now, we've had 3 offers that for me doesn't really make sense, and, one offer that does really make sense. So let's go to the next one, inshallah. So you can see here, okay, current revenue 60k, target 3 months 90k. So they want to start hitting 90k per month. If they've already given you their business goals, their revenue business goals that they want to be hitting, which gives you a clear indication of what the work is ahead of you if you were to get into a role like this. Okay, they've mentioned the lead sources: LinkedIn, cold, emails, and webinars. Right, they've got a mixture of cold and warm, outbound and inbound. The offer's been running for 1 year, and they're doing 60k a month, which is pretty good. Teams and operations, already giving you lots about the team, lots about the sales strategy, and and a wider picture of what to expect when you come into here, rather than going into the interview and start asking these questions about, okay, how many closes do you have, etc. So current team, 2 setters, hiring 2 full-time setters, compensation 500 a month base pay, which is pretty good, and commission 500 per converted deal, fixed regardless of deal size, right? Ticket price is 4 to 8K, performance based. Closing time 2 to 4 weeks. Now that is what you call a very, very detailed, in-depth summary of a job ad, right? And they've already mentioned that it's 2 to 4 weeks until a deal is closed. So I can see why they'll be open to giving a $500 per converted deal, right? It's £500, $500 base pay as well. And you can see here that you're gonna be doing a mixture of cold and warm and inbound and outbound. They've also talked about the tool that they use, HubSpot. HubSpot is a CRM, a very well-known CRM that a lot of tech companies use, a lot of corporate companies use. Not very popular in the high-ticket sales game, but as you can see here, this for me actually strikes me as a good offer, right? And at the same time, you don't take everything at surface level. If you were going to apply for this role and you actually got into the interview, you're going to ask a bunch of different questions to understand. Now, if you check out one of my YouTube videos on my channel, inshallah, and you'll see that there's 5 questions that I put that every setter really needs to ask in their calls, and I kept it quite short. There's a lot more, but you got to find a balance, because you don't want to come across as very, authoritative, or maybe a little bit arrogant. And of course, you want to position yourself as an expert. That's why you need to be very efficient with the question that you ask. And it's very important to study the offer and study this job ad before you even head into the interview, so you have some questions related to, and you can refer, and it can more or less be connected to the job ad, right? Of course, they've talked about 2 setters, 2 closers. So you can talk about how much they're making. You can talk about, okay, what funnels am I going to be working on? What funnels generate the most income for you? Because if you're hitting 60K, you've got a number of different funnels here right now. So what funnels are really actually, what funnel will I be working on? Am I working on all of them? What funnel produces the revenue? What's the highest revenue in accordance with the funnels that you have? Right? So these are some of the questions that you'd ask if you actually landed an interview with this offer. So there we have it, ikhwa. And of course, we have in our program, alhamdulillah, we train young Muslim men on becoming remote appointment setters. So if you haven't checked us out already, there's some links below on our paid program and on our free community. And alhamdulillah, we don't just blindly send our students out there and apply for roles. We're always on hand to support, and not just that, we give them tools, resources, and some really, really solid communities that we have access to apply for jobs. There's one community that we have, and in that community itself, they only post vetted jobs. Most of them, 90% of them, are vetted and they're legitimate. If they're not, some of them get removed. Okay. And we also have our own network where, it's our own network. We have a lot of Muslim brothers, and the Muslim market is growing, right? It's growing tenfold. A lot of these are non-Muslim offers, but I promise you, this is why there's so much longevity to be had here, because the Muslim market is absolutely growing. So there's a shortage of top quality Muslim setters to fill in that demand. That demand is only rising, and the supply for setters, it's not really rising. It might be rising on average setters, but not very good and great setters. People who are top performers, people who are obsessed, people who have the skill set alongside the traits that you can't teach. Okay, so I wanted to conclude, right? Inshallah ta'ala, on a couple points. And this is my conclusion. So you must understand that most jobs are surface level. Just like when you're on a setting call, right? You're speaking to a prospect. Most answers are surface level answers. So most jobs are going to be surface level. It's for you, don't be lazy. Don't be the entitled person. Don't be thinking, okay, you know what? I'm just going to, push this one aside and move on to the next one. You need to do a bit of research. You need to do your due diligence. You need to not be lazy, because you have to be proactive. You can't be reactive, hoping that jobs are just flying in and they're just going to apply to the ones that really, really catch your eye. And like I said, it's always surface level. So you must actually consider most offers, unless that leads me on to my next point. it just looks like very, very unrealistic, just like the example that I showed you, and just like the revenue example that I showed you as well. You should apply anyways, right? Even if your offer doesn't really look that right, you should apply. What's the worst case that can happen? I mean, would it hurt you? Let me ask you a question. Would it hurt you to apply? And like I said, unless it's completely obvious that this one is a no go, it's and that ends up in that's a very small pile of jobs out of the ample that's out there on the market, right? Because what you need to understand is if you apply anyways, you're going to go to an interview stage. You're going to build that confidence. That ability to ask questions, having that confidence, having that certainty, having that authority, and positioning yourself as an expert and getting that good practice of actually knowing what questions to even ask in line with what they've actually advertised, as well as the general questions like, what's your top setter making? What's the revenue like? What's your sales process like, etc. Right? And this is, again, leads me on to my next point. Most of the vetting is done in the interview. Absolutely right. You even if I mean, look, if I give you a good example, you might have a surface level job that actually turns out to be a very, very good job. It has the right environment. You're on the right funnel. They're turning over good revenue. They got about 2, 3 closers. They got 3, 4 setters, right? To actually, there's a kind of connection there. There's a team connection there, right? And you might you might be told, the right things about this role, all right? And even though at first, initially, you just thought, nah, this doesn't seem right because it's very surface level. It hasn't really included any details. What I was talking about before, you're gonna have people who are just lazy. A lot of hiring managers out there, right? They do push, and they do strongly advise to put as much detail as possible. But you got to remember, these are business owners as well. So they got lots of things that they're going to lots of duties and tasks and commitments that they need to uphold, right? Marketing, fulfillment, sales. Sales, obviously, the biggest one, right? Content, whatever you may have, product development, lifetime management of the customers. There's so many things that come into play, right? And we know that if you don't do the correct vetting on the interview, you're going to be going into something that's a little bit uncertain, and then you might find and you're in a role and it's just like, okay, this doesn't really suit me, and it's not what I expected. It's not really what I expected, and that might be down to you because you didn't do the qualification correctly. Now, experience was no experience. I just wanted to kind of point out something, right? When you're experienced, right, you can negotiate. Like if you feel like what you need to understand here is if you're good at objection handling, if you're good at the actual role itself, the skill of appointment setting, understanding a prospect, knowing what types of questions to ask, you know how to avoid and how to work around these questions that are thrown at you, like what's the price, what's the program about. You're very calm, you're very composed, you have the right communication skills. If you've built up that experience and you've built up that skill set, and you think that you know that you can come into any offer and absolutely crush it, right? Then that person, he will have a lot more authority, and you can feel a little bit more entitled when you're in an interview because really and truly you have self-worth. You know what you're bringing to the table, right? So remember, you want to provide as much value as they can provide you, right? So when you're experienced, you can go along those lines and you can go along that direction of, okay, I'm gonna vet this offer correctly because I need the right environment to perform. I was speaking to one brother he's had 3 years experience in the high ticket sales game. He was on offer. Oh, he was on offer for 3 weeks. He did say to me that, I did fairly vet it, but when I realized it was fluctuating, the lead flow wasn't as great, and I wasn't getting closer to actually hitting six k a month. That's what he wanted to hit, because on his previous offer he was hitting 6k a month. And by the way, this is a brother who was, while he was on an offer, right, he was still applying for other roles, because you must understand that it's a very evolving market. There's ample opportunities that are coming at left, right, and center. So if you're on one offer and it's not, and you're maybe hitting 2, 3k a month, but then you find an offer after doing some due diligence and some research and actually going to the interview and doing some vetting, okay, this sounds a lot better than the previous offer. I can raise my earning to 6k a month and be able to grow in this offer, because the higher the revenue, the better the lead flow, the better the environment, the better the growth, right? Because you'll be challenged a little bit more. You can be able to keep up that consistency. Whereas when you're on a 2 to 3k offer, the lead flow might be, uncertain, unpredictable, right? It might drop, it might rise, it might drop and rise rapidly. Okay, so this brother himself, he actually left the offer after 3 weeks. After 3 weeks, because he found a different offer. That's why I say to a lot of brothers and a lot of my students, if you're on an offer, right, it's not just the end, right? It's just the start of your job hunting, because there'll always be ones that are better. And while you're building your experience there, you're just going to transfer that experience and actually level up and build it even more and become, because you want to go from being a skill setter to when you want to master it, you want to become a top performer, and you need the right environment, like I said, and the right offer. So that's the other one, and that's the other thing that I wanted to mention. If you have no experience, right? I'm not saying that beggars can't be choosers, because let's be honest, you still have that self worth if you've trained correctly, if you've done reps, if you've done role play, if you know what if you have confidence, right? If you know that despite me having no experience, I've got transferable skills. I've practiced. I've invested in myself. I'm in a mentorship program. I've had one or two roles that was a small business, and let's say you had no experience at all. Of course, you still want to go into the interview and vet the offer, but you got to be a little bit more efficient. You got to pick and choose the questions that you want to ask, because again, you don't want to come across as very arrogant, or very authoritative, or really trying to dissect them at every angle, or every and strip everything out the business, right? So you need to be very efficient when you're asking questions. And of course, again, if you land a role and it doesn't quite work out, next thing, don't be scared to leave. Right? Don't be scared to leave. If you're on an offer, whether you're experienced, whether you're not experienced, and this applies to both, right? Whether you're not on one or whether you are on one, it doesn't really matter. If it's not really working out for you, this is what setters struggle with, right? They have this fear factor, or they have this doubt, this hesitancy, this misconception, or the wrong belief that, okay, I got to stay put here to build my experience. Apply for other roles while you're on that role. When you start getting some 2-3 interviews and you actually land that role, the other offer doesn't need to know about it, and the offer that you're applying to doesn't need to know about it. Right? So if you're not performing well, and it's because of the offer, it's because of the close. Maybe you're booking meetings into the calendar and you're only getting 2-3 closes, or maybe you're getting no closes. Maybe you're getting qualified leads and you're booking them in and they're not showing up. Maybe the offer's not even that great. And that's why it's so important to actually join an offer that you believe in, that you have passion for. Because let's say, for example, you're selling a product. Let's say you are selling your own. I'm talking about a product centric business. Like, for example, let's say, a phone, right? If you create a phone, right, you'd be very, very passionate to sell that thing. Just like if you're on an offer and you know there's top level fulfillment, there's solid reviews, there's solid customer testimonials. They actually operate with real integrity, and they're very, very hot on fulfilling their clients. That can seep through in your conversations, and not just in your conversations, but in your actual work itself and your performance, right? So that's why I say this. I mean, this statement of you're only as good as the offer, right? It's case by case, but it applies to a lot of cases. I promise you that. So never be scared to leave. And if you have a role, I mean, I've been talking about this. I've been talking about this the whole time. I mean, not the whole time, but I've been focusing on it. If you have a role, you should still be applying. Right? You should still be applying if you have a role. And don't forget that you're here to seek the true reality. If there's jobs that are surface level, it's your job to seek the true reality of that job, of that company, of the agency, doing a bit of research beforehand, studying the job offer, and coming into the question ready to interrogate them as much as they interrogate you, because you need to realize that interviews are a genuine conversation. Just like sales, right? It's a genuine, emotional, human conversation. So apply that, transfer that knowledge, some of that knowledge over to interviews, and you'll see that you're not just going to be this guy that's sitting back at a chair and people are firing, a person's firing questions at you and you're being interrogated, investigated. You're being qualified. You're being fully checked. So that's what I wanted to kind of touch on, inshallah ta'ala. So alhamdulillah, like, we've gone through a lot here. This is exactly what you need to go out there. Now, before you even watch this video, to now you're leaving this video, I can promise you, I know you're feeling confident. I know you're feeling, I've got exactly what I need. All right, inshallah ta'ala. So alhamdulillah, next time you're going out there in the job market, whether you're in my program, whether you're not, And whether you're in another mentorship program, you might be in another mentorship program, you might be just going solo looking for a role itself. Take notes, take this all with you. Inshallah ta'ala, this will help you land the role that you're looking for, so you can earn consistently, you can have really good performance, and you can really grow in this industry and not settle as a setter, right? So if you really enjoyed this video, please like, please comment, please subscribe, and inshallah we will see you on the next one.